you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to December's Easy Church. How quickly that's come round. So we're going to kick off with the second in our Advent liturgies. Just let Paul in. So there, I'm going to just get the words up on screen, and there are responses. Now, I made a bit of a mess last week with what David and I had written down. Since there's only me involved this week, I can't exactly get that wrong. So, although I suppose I could find a way. So just stick the words on screen. If you leave your microphones open, we might as well share in the responses so that we can hear each other.
The bus has arrived.
The bus has arrived. Yes, morning, Joe. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hi, mate.
Sorry.
It's all right. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Okay,
And
so
Tom. Hi, Tom.
yes, hiya, Tom. If you leave your microphones open, and hopefully you can see on screen the bold type as we get to that, if we can say all of that together. So here we go with our second in Advent. When God reigns, there is room for difference. It's Advent, not yet Christmas.
All right.
Sorry?
Right, sorry. We couldn't see the first bit of it. Oh, sorry, there's
What's
a bit
the
underlined.
first bit?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
got-
Right.
it's like a
Okay.
title.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
fine.
I'm sorry.
That's
Ignore me.
I think that's the title of the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you can. I don't know that bold is very clear. It's the last line anyway. The habit.
Oh, yeah.
God reigns.
Yeah.
Okay. It's Advent and not yet Christmas. It's time for you and me to prepare. It's time for all the world's different people to prepare. From east and west, north and south, to gather as one human family.
Mhm.
How do we welcome and receive people who seem so different to us? When God reigns,
There is room
There's
for
room for
difference.
difference.
how do we see the prophecies that arise from different cultures?
Mhm.
When God
Reigns, there is room
room
for
for
difference.
how do we understand a message from someone we don't expect?
When
God
God reigns, there
There's
is
room
room
for
for
difference.
difference.
How would we welcome amongst us John the Baptist with camel's hair and leather belt?
When God reigns,
there is
room for difference.
How do we see God's message beyond our circle of family and friends? When God reigns,
There is room for difference.
how do we live together in harmony, in peace and love with people who are different from us?
When
God
God reigns, there is room for difference.
So we're going to light the second candle. Last week, we lit a candle for you and me. Let us light our second candle now for people who are different from us as we watch and wait. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, now, well, last month we dipped into the world of QI, the TV show. This week we're doing another quiz show. It's slightly different to QI. So I promise I am not going to attempt a Bruce Forsyth impression. So we've got some questions based on the format of Play Your Cards Right, which, as you will probably know, is all to do with whether an answer is higher or lower than another. Okay, so let's just go straight to question one and all will be revealed. Okay, so question one. Now, it's about football, but don't panic. So the English Premiership has got 20 teams. So question one is, does the English Championship have a higher or lower number of teams than the English Premiership? So if to go back along, English Premiership used to be the first division years ago, and Championship used to be the second division. Well, now they're called the Premiership and the Championship. So if the Premiership's got 20 teams in it, has the Championship got a higher or lower number of teams? Now, if you would indicate your guess with your finger up in the air or your finger down for lower, okay? So higher or lower, which way are you going? And if you've got any
Going
sense,
higher.
watch Jeff, because he knows what he's talking about. Okay. I think we're mostly okay. So the answer is higher. The Championship has got 24 teams in it, and the Premiership. So now you get the idea. Okay, question
Right,
two.
okay.
This is about the injuries that happen at Christmas. All right. So this is guaranteed random quiz. All right. So believe it or not, there are on average 1,000 people injured every year by putting up Christmas tree decorations. Now, picture the scene. Typically, this is putting baubles on a tree with a ramshackle stepladder that you probably shouldn't ever go anywhere near. So people are falling over and hurting themselves. And it's about 1,000. These are official averages from ROSPA, the accident people. So 1,000 people a year are hurt putting up Christmas tree decorations.
Yeah.
So, what about the number of people that are injured with Christmas tree lights? Now, that might be burns or it might be getting the tangle around your foot or something. So, there's an average number of people every year that are injured using Christmas tree lights. Do you think?
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are these current? This is not from a question from Bruce?
No, it isn't. So it's in the last few years
Okay,
they've
that's
done
fine.
these averages.
Okay.
So it's reasonably current, yes. And not from the time when Christmas tree lights were actual candles. So this is electric Christmas tree lights. Do you think the number of people hurt with Christmas tree lights is higher or lower than Christmas tree decorations?
1,000.
I'd like to indicate now.
I'm not looking at the screen, so I'm not influenced.
Oh, we are pretty split down the middle there, I think. Okay.
Right.
The answer is, surprisingly, I thought lower. An average of
wow.
350
Brilliant.
people a year.
Well, electricity's safer.
That's good.
these days,
Well, I
isn't it?
suppose it
Yeah.
is, yeah, but yeah. I always get my
I
lights
think it
in
might
at 10.
include outdoor ones as well, so I thought it'd be higher.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a very
Yeah.
justified guess, Adele. Yes. As
Broken
you will
leg.
have gathered, there's no penalty for any wrong answers this
All right.
Okay,
Good.
question 3. What about record sales? So Band-Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas,
Christmas.
has sold a total of 3.8 million records since it was released in 1984. Okay, so that's a lot of
Yeah.
record sales. The question is, has Bing Crosby's White Christmas sold more or less? So is Bing Crosby's White Christmas, is it higher or lower?
Lower.
Oh, we've got a
I'm going-
mixture, probably. Oh, okay, yeah, it's a bit more or less higher. The answer is quite phenomenally 50 million records has been sold of Bing Crosby's versions of White Christmas.
Wow.
Exactly. Mind you, when you think that it was released in 1784, then maybe
Oh,
that's...
Yeah, well, all right.
Oh, you remember
Okay.
that, will you, Kevin?
Yeah.
Well done, Joey.
Thank you very much for your support.
Always welcome.
Now, the rest of the questions are much more to do with the reason why I'm messing about like this, because they are all based on the recent census results that were given out this week on religion. Now, you may have seen this lot in the news.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's fine if you have, but it just means you'll get lots of the answers right, and that's fine. Question 4 So all of the following questions are based on the difference in the figures for different religions about how many people in England and Wales are observers of each of the religions.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's start with Buddhists. In 2011, there were 248,580 Buddhists in England and Wales. So from the 2021 census, so in 10 years, is the number of Buddhists higher or lower than in 2011? If you'd like to indicate.
Going up.
Okay, we've got higher. That's all excellent. Well done. The answer is 272,000. So there's 30 or so more thousand Buddhists than there was 10 years ago. What about Hindus? Way more than Buddhists, actually. 817,000 Hindus in 2011. Higher or lower in 2021? We've got lower, and we've got a number, and then some mostly higher's, and it's significantly higher.
Oh, it's even higher. Wow. Even more than I
Over
thought.
1 million now. Okay, so that's a rise of, what is that, Hindus? 200,000 people. More Hindus in 10 years than in 2011. Here's the next one. The number of Jews, similar to Buddhists, 265,000 in 2011. The number in 2021, higher or lower? Lower, much more split. The answer is higher, 271,000. So that's that's only gone up 6,000, but it's still higher than it was 10 years previous. Okay. Question 7, the number of Muslims. So there were 2.7 million Muslims in 2011. What about the number of Muslims in 2021? Higher or lower?
Yeah, going up.
Mostly higher. Okay, and it is 3.8 million Muslims in 2021. So that's a rise of 1 million. So yeah, that's the rise in. Right. Okay. What about the number of Sikhs? 423,000
now
in
that's a thought.
2011.
Well, can't see why not.
Do we think higher or lower in 2021?
I'll go with that one.
Yeah. There's a pattern here, and that is higher. 520,140. So that's a rise of about 100,000, give or take, in Sikhs. Okay. Then we get to question 9. The number of Christians, which is way more than any of the other religions, significantly more. 33.2 million. Now, if you've been watching the news, you will know the answer to this. Higher or lower in 2021?
I think it's lower.
Everybody has got that one right from what I can tell. The answer is 27.5 million, which is the biggest decrease in the number of Christians that has ever been recorded in a 10-year census period. It's about 17 or 18% less than in 2011. It's the reason it hit the news, to be fair, because now in 2011 Christians represented 59% of the people in England and Wales, and now Christians represent 46%.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah,
of the population.
Yeah.
And then we come to question 10, which is the number of people who declared in 2011 they had no religion. So do we think that that is higher or lower? And most people are voting before I ask the question. Yeah, kind of. 22.1 million people now. That is an increase of 8 million people who in the space of the last 10 years have decided that they are now of no religion. And the key thing that I'm going to just put this up now, please, while you look at this, don't think you have to read the numbers because they're too small, all right?
Yeah.
It's not an eye test, okay? But,
all right.
What this table does is it puts those numbers in true perspective. So the second bar down, and Lorna, you're going to have to help me here.
Okay.
What colour is 2011 and what colour is 2021?
Well, 2011's grey and the other one's blue. Well, so
Grey and blue?
The top one's grey, the bottom one's
Right,
blue.
okay. So in each case, so it's the grey bar, the top bar, is the 2011 census, and the blue bar at the bottom is the 2021 census. So, for example, that second category down is Christians, and that's gone from 33 million people to 27.5 million people. You can see the change down. Now, I'm a bit sad, really, because I have seen a number of news reports this week, and I've seen a number of really, really nasty tweets commented on Twitter, basically saying we're being taken over by Muslims. And it really distresses me because, as you can see from those numbers, that is so singularly not true.
Yeah.
It is so obviously not true. It's really hard to listen to when people decide to say that that's the situation, that we're being taken. We're not being taken over by Muslims at all. Basically, as is clear from that table, because right down towards the bottom, the no religion category is where the grey bar has gone from 14 million people to 22 million people. And so it's not hard to see where the people who are saying they are no longer Christian have gone. They haven't turned to another religion. They have been turned off Christianity. And what I find sad about this is, I remember standing in the pulpit 10 years ago saying we have a problem because the church is dying and we're not doing anything about it. And these numbers, there is really nothing subtle about these statistics. Nothing at all subtle about these statistics. They are very, very stark and huge shifts. There is never been such a change in these numbers in any 10-year period that they've done between censuses, if that's the plural of census, before. Never been such a massive change. And we could sit here and debate, and maybe we should. It's not what I'm looking to get into today, but maybe we should sit down and try and work out what it is about Christianity and the Christian church that people are walking away from, because that is what's happening. It is an incredibly significant shift in what is happening for people's thoughts and beliefs. I read, and if any of you are on Facebook, you'll have seen me sharing it, a quote by Nadia Bolz-Weber this week, who's the Lutheran preacher who we've used quite a lot of in our services. And she said this: people don't leave Christianity because they stop believing in the teaching of Jesus. People leave Christianity because they believe in the teachings of Jesus so much they can't stomach being part of an institution that claims to be about that and clearly isn't. And I think that's something that we should all ponder. I wanted a break in proceedings. I'm just going to mute everybody now. And I thought there would be no better break than to listen to the absolute majesty of Richard Stilgore and Peter Skellin singing about Mrs. Beamish. So as those figures settle in, let's just have a ponder on how we see things in the church as we listen to how Mrs. Beamish sees things in the church. Settle back and enjoy. I don't know who put the video together. It wasn't them. It's just a series of quirky little images. But listen to the song words. It's a joy. Oh, sorry. Shared the wrong thing. 1 second. Oh, come on, Kev. Right, I'll try again. That. It's more like it. Here we go.
Mrs. Beamish stands in church, expression calm and holy, and when the organ plays she mumbles hymns extremely slowly. A pillar of St. Botolph's for 20 years or more. She does the flowers at Easter and the brass work on the door. But recently St. Botolph's has gained a brand new vicar. His name is Ken, he's single and he wants the hymn sung quicker. And he's introduced a custom which Mrs. Beamish hates. So she rounds upon the person next to her and clearly states, don't you dare shake hands with me or offer signs of peace. You lay a finger on me and I'll send for the police. Don't whisper peace be with you, this is the C of E. So bend the knee, say thou and thee, and keep your hands off me. Ken tells us love your neighbour, and Mrs. Beamish sneers. I only love my neighbours if I've known them 30 years. Even when it isn't Christmas, he lets youngsters in the church. He's altered all the music after audience research. They shout out, hallelujah. They don't act like me and you. The young women don't wear hats and the young men quite often do. And they seem to like their hands enthusiastically wrung till they turn to Mrs. Beamish and they feel her acid tongue. Don't you dare shake hands with me, I don't know where you've been. You lay a finger on me and you'll feel this tambourine. Don't whisper peace be with you, this is the C of E. So bend the knee, say thou and thee, and keep your hands off me. In the beginning was the word, read out loud by Thora heard. Harry Seacombe then would scream, a morning is broken by a stream. Now the organ's gone for scrap, every vicar's got the clap. Hallelujah, Mrs. Beamish, Mrs. Beamish. Hallelujah, she's squeamish, so squeamish. Don't you dare shake hands with me, or turn to me and smile. You'll wake up spitting teeth out, face downwards in the aisle. Don't whisper peace be with you, this is the C of E. You go just 1 inch too far, you'll end up wearing that guitar. One false step in my direction, you'll lead to believe in the resurrection. So bend the knee, say thou and thee, and keep your hands off me.
That's made me feel that we saw them singing that live
We
in
did.
Wakefield.
We did, yeah. We've seen Stilgo and Skellen live twice now.
Yeah,
You've seen them three
3
times.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. Peter Skellen's dead now, but they were just absolutely brilliant. But I mean, I don't know. There's something about that song that you know, they say all there's truth in jest and stuff, but there's some lines in there that are so absolutely precious and so relevant about the way in which people see our churches and the way in which people react. I mean, the one that sticks with me is I only love my neighbour if I've known them for 30 years. So, yeah, anyway, that was just a bit of light relief. The theme of this year's Advent, as we have said through the liturgies last week and this, is There is Room. And the image they have is of the word there is room, but it used to be there is no room, but that's been taken away. And so the no's gone away and it just says there is room. And it's quite a sort of heavily approached campaign by the Methodist Church. There's a little video, and by little I mean it is less than 2 minutes long, but there's quite a lot of stuff in there. And I'm going to show that very shortly, which is the introductory thing to the theme is This is Room. Now, we come off the back of those census figures, and I can't help a little cynical quip to say, I wonder if there's room because everyone's left the church. But let's hope that's not the case, and that we take the essence of what This is Room really means. And I think that this video, and basically if you sign up to the website that's at the end of the video, the Methodist Church will then send you a few little emails explaining the stories of the people that are featured in the video. But I'd like us to explore that this morning. So this is a bit like if you ever used to watch Screen Test. This is the observation round. So when I show this video, which is 2 minutes long, obviously enjoy it for what it is. But you will see, well, four characters. Plus there's a woman in hospital, and we'll maybe come on to her. But there are 4 characters featured in this video. And there's no dialogue, apart from there is a poem being read in the background. And interestingly enough, our very own Tim Baker wrote the poem, just so you know that. And it's some beautiful words, and that's what runs through the video. So there's no dialogue from the characters, but the characters' stories are featured in some very short excerpts of what's happening to them. So why it's the observation round is I'm just going to ask us at the end of the video just to kind of explore who these characters are and maybe what our first impressions were about what's going on for them in the video. So it's only 2 minutes long, so do just watch it, and we'll see if we can. Don't worry, it's not a grilling. It's just so we can share our ideas at the end of the video about what we've just seen and what's happening for the characters in there. So this is the There Is Room video from the Methodist Church.
There is room. There is room for you. There is a space in the world for you. There's a place in God's story for you. Love actually is all around, in the glistening lights, the warmth of the fire on winter nights, the here-ness of you and you and you. Of course there is room. How could there not be when the music is playing, the people are praying, and all of the universe is saying, you are loved. This is where the story starts. The story that God is not apart. She's here, right here. Whether you're a wise man or a shepherd, feeling like an angel, or holding a story that's hopeful or shameful, this is the time when we welcome the stranger, like Mary, welcoming men to the manger and discovering that these strangers are angels with messages of love for you and me, messages to hang on the Christmas trees of our hearts. This story is yours because God is here, not there, near, not far, because Christmas is coming, and of course, there is room.
Okay, there's the logo thing that I was on about, where it starts with "There is no room," but we've crossed the "no" out this year. So I hope you enjoyed that, and it'd be interesting to see what you thought about it, and maybe we can explore that as we go. But let's just look at the characters we saw. So I'm going to put up a picture, a still from that video of each of these 4 characters, and I would just like you to basically give your thoughts about that character and what was happening for them, and any good, bad, or otherwise thoughts that you had. So just a free, an open mic discussion. Just shove your hand up and start talking. So what about this first guy? What did you make of him, and what was going on for him in the video? Anybody?
Well, I thought he was probably in prison.
Right, that is absolutely what they're saying. Yes.
Yeah, he's on his own in prison and doesn't seem to be sharing a cell with anybody.
Well observed, Jeanette. I bet you were good at screen test. Any other thoughts about what happened to him through the course of the video? We saw him only 3 times.
He's in touch. There's somebody on the outside for him, because he had post or something like that, didn't he? He was reading
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah.
It looks sad.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In despair, I think.
And did you catch? It was only a tiny snippet. Did you see what he had in his post?
There was a red,
Christmas card.
Was it a Christmas
a
card?
red
Christmas
envelope.
So when he opened it and pulled it out, there was a string of fairy lights. I don't know if you noticed. It was literally on the
right.
screen for just so. I think it was a Christmas card, Paul. I think you're right. But inside the Christmas card was a little battery-operated string of fairy lights. And so in the email that came out about him, it's talking about all the words that you people have just said: sad and lonely and despair. And he's clearly not looking forward to Christmas. And somebody had sent him these fairy lights just as something to say that somebody's thinking of you. There was somebody on the outside, as you say. And so that was the sort of encapsulation of him in what is a desperate situation for him, clearly, this Christmas, as he looks forward to that and what it might mean. And that someone had just identified that and sent him this thing which was symbolic of some light. What about this girl? What did you see going on for her?
Feeling left out.
She was left out,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because she was in a group, but she was away from it.
Yeah.
On the periphery of that group.
Yeah.
Doesn't she look sad or anxious or?
I think so.
She's, I can't wear the face out.
Joyce, sorry, I saw you speak, but you're still on mute. We couldn't hear you, love.
She doesn't feel as though she can go in the group, to join the group.
No.
I think
She
that's
doesn't-
right. There was a real reticence there, wasn't
Oh,
there?
yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
Mm.
Again,
Almost
in a
looks
tiny-
frightened.
Well, she does look frightened, Doreen. Yes, I think you're right. And in the blurb that came out about her story, she'd been called a freak and weird, and I think very subtly. And I didn't notice it until I read the email, but I think she's probably of ethnic origin, and I think that's
Yes, she
what
is.
the-
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
She can't take that step into the group because she doesn't feel invited into the group.
Yes. Now again, and I don't know if this is something clever about the video making, but in a tiny snippet towards the end, she was welcomed into the group.
Yeah.
She
She,
moved
at
into
the other end,
group
yeah.
and sat and chatted. So yeah, she feels on the edge because of really her origin and the fact that she's been mocked and criticised for it. But the group in the end said, yes, there is room for you. What about this guy sat in church?
He looks
Feeling very alone.
Yeah. Alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
distraught, doesn't know what to do.
Looks
Yeah.
like you were
No.
reflective and looking for answers or something.
Yeah.
That's
Search.
why he's
Yeah.
gone to
And
church.
he'd gone to church to try and
Church,
find that. Somebody had said, you'll find it in church, and that's
Church.
where he'd gone.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And funnily enough, the blurb and the story describes him doing that on Christmas Eve.
Right.
So, and we hear that story often, that, you know, the idea of like drunks walking past church, but something's drawing them into church on Christmas Eve as they're on the way home, and or, you know, whatever. It's like a stereotype which you don't really like, but there is this sense. And apparently, in his story, he felt drawn to go to church on Christmas Eve, and the vicar or the priest or the minister who spotted him and went to talk to him at the end had seen him a few times and just kind of clocked him and then approached him, and, you know, they chatted. And so that's the idea of the story there. And I think very cleverly, we don't find out what his problem is in his story.
No, true.
We just discover, and so that people are saying that people are discriminating against me and always pointing out my failures. And so it's very, I think it's very cleverly done, because he's not labelled as anything.
No, he's
He's
not.
just someone who feels shame and feels a failure. And I think that's something we can all relate to, regardless of our circumstances. And he does just feel that, and that's why he feels lost, because of his shame and his failure.
Perhaps he has a hidden disability.
It could easily be that. And again, I think that's really clever about the story, in that they don't concentrate on his label, whatever it is, because I think we fall into all sorts of traps then. Instead, it's just the fact that he is going through pain and difficulty and feeling shame and feeling a failure. And it could be absolutely for that, Doreen, yeah. And I think that's clever in a way, because we're not hanging everything on a label. We're just seeing someone in difficulty. This is wonderful, folks. Thank you. And what about this guy, the fourth one? What were your observations?
I think he's having a bit of an alcohol problem, possibly.
I think you're absolutely right, Paul. That's the story here. Again, quite subtly done.
See, when it goes to the support group.
And then he ends up going to the support group in the end and starting to open up. Absolutely.
Although his life is on the stage, but it's not his life. It's another world, and this is his world here on the screen.
Very interesting. Yes, absolutely. And the whole thing about addiction, whatever that addiction is, and I think Paul was right to spot a can of beer. So there's a suggestion of an alcohol problem, or maybe more, since he's looking through his phone for his contacts and stuff as well. So there's all sorts of clues there. But this is a guy who, is trying to deal with his addictions and the reasons why he is addicted. And then he heads off into the support group to find the room. And I don't want to make that corny, but the story, the whole point of this, from the church's point of view, is that there is room for everybody. And that is that the church is offering itself as a place where there is room. Now, we had a very interesting discussion at the Shoreline group in the week where we were talking about exactly what it means for the church to welcome people, and the age-old debate about, does that mean we want people to come into the church? Or instead, what Lorna was saying was, it is really simple. We have to be the church where we are. And you can still welcome people into church even if you stood in a supermarket queue. It's not a physical thing. It's not about bringing them into. It's about being able to share the good things that Jesus taught us about the way we were kind of hoping that we could live. And if we share that with other people, then it rubs off. And it's in those connections where the whole sense that they feel that there's room for them in those circles, not within where you are, not just about walking into a church, because often that can be such a barrier for people. The other thing that the video did, and thank you all for your feedback, it showed this woman on the bench, and I think the idea on the hospital bed, that there was those noises. It was as if she was dying at first, whereas actually she's giving birth. And they're very open about that, and what they say in their blurb is, there's a fine line between life and death, and yet in the midst of fear and pain, new life arrives. Another story starts, a child is born, and a new life begins. And just carrying on, all of the universe is saying you are loved. That's where the story starts, from a place of love. Our lives can become flooded with hate and despair, but this Christmas can we see the hope again, when the music is playing and the people are playing.
That was excellent, yeah.
With really the whole campaign. So if you're interested in having a look for yourself, thereisroom.co.uk. If you go there, then you can join and you can get the email sent and you can have a look at the videos and the stories. And I just often, when the church, not just the Methodist Church, but any of the church produces things like this, I have to say I press play with some fear and trepidation that it's going to be corny or that it's going to be a little bit, odd. But I was really, really impressed with this whole campaign. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So we've seen about an addict, and we've seen about someone who's struggling in terms of feeling a failure and feeling shame, and we've seen about a prisoner. Can we think, even in silence, but please do offer something if you've got it, of anybody else or any other categories of people who you think it would be good if they could hear the message this year that there is room for them? Just have a think, and if there's anything you want to offer in, then please do.
People who are homeless.
Homeless people, yep.
Victims of abuse.
That feel suicidal.
People feeling suicidal, yeah.
Bereaved people.
Bereaved, yes.
People who are frightened about, they've got no money and, cost of living crisis.
Absolutely. thank you. So there's a lot of people there that the church is trying to say there is room for you. And I just wonder about the way in which the church might be able to do that. I'm going to start with a way in which that I don't think the church is very successful. And that is essentially by wrapping up the message, there is room for you, by finishing the sentence by saying there is room for you if only you believe in Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
And a lot of churches do say that, and if people turn up to church for the first time, it's not long before they hear the message. It's really lovely to have you with us and you're very welcome. And all you have to do is believe in Jesus and all your problems will be over. And I'm not making that up because I've watched.
No, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard it.
So this is very real. And for me, I have to say at the very heart of what I am, I think that's part of the reason why people are walking away from the church. And I've seen people walk away from churches because of that.
Yeah, I'll go along with that.
This message is there is room for you, full stop.
Regardless. Yeah.
There is room for you with no conditions.
True.
There is room for you wherever you are and whatever is going on in your world. Come in and let's share.
Yeah.
And we create those spaces and those situations where people feel able and comfortable in sharing with each other. One of the other productions from the Methodist Church is a podcast that I've been listening to. I've not listened to them all. I think there's been about 8 so far. And it is called the Hope and Anchor podcast. And there's a little picture of the headline of it. That is a guy called Trey Hall, who is an American guy who's one of the mission and evangelism people within the Methodist Church in the UK. And he hosts the podcast, and he's had a massive variety of guests on these podcasts. And I think there's something about what he's done that starts to really strike with me about the point we've just made about what's not a good way to do this and what is a good way to do this. So there's a couple of strap lines to the podcast. One is, you can see it there, inclusive conversations that change things. So that's the headline of what the podcast is trying to do. And the other thing that he says is the podcast invites people in, people of faith, people of no faith, and everything in between. And in those 2 strap lines, I think he spells out what the whole essence of this is, that he's trying to create a space for conversation where absolutely everybody is welcome. This is a production of the Methodist Church of Great Britain, but he welcomes guests who have faith, who have no faith, who have different faith, and are everywhere in between.
That's
And some of the podcast is a bit jerky and a bit jarry and what have you, but the whole essence of the conversations is I have never at any stage felt that any of these guests were unwelcome because of what they believed. Never at any stage. Isn't that what this is room full stop truly means? That we create a space in our interactions and our conversations where people feel comfortable to be a part of it and do not feel judged about what they do or they don't believe. Is that how we can attract people into whatever we want to call the church? Examples of the guests he's had chaplains and activists and inspirational speakers and comedians and TV presenters and theologians and drag queens and pastors and vicars and some Methodist ministers. In fact, there's one that I know over in Bradford who we've met through the work we're doing with the church, who does a pub church in Bradford. They don't have a building like we do. They meet twice a month in a pub in Bradford for beer and hymns. So that gives you an idea about what's going on there. There's actually a wrestling church in Yorkshire as well, literally a group of wrestlers who play out Bible stories in the ring. I mean, it's been such a wide range of people. And the overarching thing is that everybody's views are valid at the table. Everybody is made welcome and do not feel judged because of what they believe. Is this where there is room full stop? And all of that has very little to do with any of the buildings we worship in. All of that has very little to do with a Sunday morning. It has to do with who we are, how we behave, how we talk to people, how inclusive we feel, and how comfortable we make another person feel when we have a conversation. I don't know, maybe people might come back to that kind of church, one where those emphases are different and change. For me, Jesus did give us an instruction. He said, make disciples of all men. And it's how we interpret that that matters. And I think great swathes of the church have taken that to mean that we have to get people, A, to believe in Jesus, even though they don't really know what that means, and B, to come to church on Sundays. Now, I'm sorry, I've scoured the Bible, I've scoured the places where Jesus said, go and make disciples of all men, and he did not say that. He said, make disciples of all men. Well, what does a disciple look like? A disciple looks like someone, as far as I'm concerned, who lives a life of love and tolerance and acceptance and respect, and is willing and comfortable to have conversations with people of different beliefs. That looks like a disciple of Jesus to me. And I'm afraid, quite frankly, as long as we get that end result, I don't care how people have got there. And I really don't care whether they come to a worship service on a Sunday. All we're doing is trying to make the world a better place. And who knows what's going on spiritually? If we have those inclusive conversations that change things with people, and they are changed, and we're changed, and we start, both parties start to relate to other people in a better way, haven't we got the better world that we were looking for? So there is room this year in the Methodist Church, in the church at large, in society at large. And I feel really delighted that the Methodist Church has produced something that is taking us to this kind of place in the form of this video and this campaign, in the form of this podcast. I truly believe that we are being shown a different model of church, and one that people may not in the next 10 years want to be running away from. And I hope so. We're going to sing to close, and thank you all, honestly, for all your contributions this morning. That's been really, really lovely. And we're going to sing a song we have sung before, but I think it really hits the spot as far as this lot is concerned. So hopefully you can see those words, and we shall sing. Some days it flickers, some days it goes out. This little light, my faith and my doubts, it shows me a path, does this light of mine. Still I get lost, some days I don't shine, but the light will shine on all of us, not just for the few. Take me, darling, take me where the grass grows green. Let me walk another mile with you. In blue sky and sunshine the way becomes clear. We stop and give thanks, understand that we're here. Some days there's no dawn, but the night never leaves. We ache for the blue sky, but we travel in grief. But the light will shine on all of us, not just for the few. Take me, darling, take me where the grass grows green. Let me walk another mile with you. This light's not mine, this light's not yours. This light is brightest when the light is ours. If you're in the dark, but the light's breaking through, that sense of just maybe, that's us holding you. And the light will shine on all of us, not just for the few. Take me, darling, take me where the grass grows green. Let me walk another mile with you. So just before we share the grace together, just share some more of that poem that we saw earlier. This is where the story starts. The story that God is not apart. She's here, right here. This is the time when we welcome the stranger, like Mary welcoming men to the manger and discovering that these strangers are angels with messages of love for you and me, messages to hang on the Christmas trees of our hearts. This story is yours because God is here, not there, near, not far. Because Christmas is coming, and of course, there is room. Thank you, everyone. Let's close, if we would, by sharing the grace together. May the grace
of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God, the fellowship of the Holy Spirit,
Be with us all.
be with us all evermore. Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Just to say, Joyce had to go, but she's texted me to say that she's okay and she had to go. So
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Just a quick notice before we disappear. Tuesday, the 13th of December,
Simone.
6:30 p.m. at This Green Moon in Swillington and on Zoom. We have carols by candlelight. So if you're interested in coming along to that, it's the usual arrangements up in the forest. 6:30 Tuesday the 13th. So do spread the word. I think I've sent the email out. I think I've sent an email out.
Yeah.
Please do spread the word. Share it with whoever and bring along whoever you want.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Shoreline, yes. Also, next Tuesday is the 4th session in the Shoreline discussion group. You don't have to have been to the other three. We're sharing our thoughts in an open forum about the the Rowan Williams book on C.S. Lewis's Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and we're just doing a chapter a week. So Shoreline are hosting, and there's a chapter to read, which you should see attached to the email you've sent. If not, give us a shout, and that's on Tuesday night next week, 7:30.
Big worship next Sunday.
And big worship next Sunday. I think that's it.
Okay.
And Christmas Day's on the 25th, just in case you wonder.
Okay.
Only 3 weeks today.
Sorry?
Only 3 weeks today.
Oh, thanks, Doreen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Brilliant.